Hello everyone, and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 1. That, my friends, is a palindrome. Just like my name, my real name that is, my name is NBZ. Exactly. My real name, Numan, is a palindrome in itself, because it is the same backwards as it is forwards. Bally.
Like Mawam.
Wait, oh shit, you're right, Mawam. Wow, I never knew that.
Your name actually fits into the Mawam song.
Oh, you're right, kind of. If you want to make a really bad song, then sure, you can do that.
M-A-N.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're just getting into weird, old references that people who grew up in the UK at a certain period of time will only understand and no one else will. Unless they still do those Mawam adverts, I don't know.
I feel like it was pushed a lot more when it came out, and while you can still buy Mawam, I don't see it advertised often.
No, I keep seeing it in the stores, though. They don't tend to do just the Mawam strips anymore, which is what they started with. They now have all those gumball things as well they mix in.
Oh, they're great. I love Mawam.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I don't know. But I guess they don't have Mawam over in Brussels, so you're missing out on the home sweets and stuff like that.
I think they do. I mean, Haribo's German, isn't it?
I guess. That's the thing. All these sweets are not British in any way. They're all imports from other places, right. And we have no idea where they come from. So Mawam just as likely is probably from somewhere like Brussels anyway. But
how did we get into this discussion?
I don't know. Because episode 111, Valley, that's we're here.
Right.
How are you doing, Bally? You're here. You're the co-host of this show.
I'm very good. I had a few days off, and I think you'll find I played quite a lot of games in those few days off.
You did. I couldn't remember. I'd forgotten that you had time off, and I thought you were at work or something. And then you're like, "Oh, I finished this game, and I finished this game." I'm like, "Jesus, man, you bought those 3 days ago. What are you doing? You're going crazy." But we will get to that. We'll talk about it. We are, however, going to be talking next time about a very big game, a very important game, Final Fantasy VI. Which is our backlog club, which I think have been talking about for literally ever, because when we decided we were going to do this, it was a long time ago, and we gave ourselves a big window to play it. Next time is the episode when we're going to be discussing our 4th backlog club game, which is Final Fantasy VI. So if you have thoughts on Final Fantasy VI, whether you played along with us or not, please send those in to our email address, or go to our Discord, and you can chat with us there in the Discord kind of area about your thoughts and feelings on the game. Where is that email address they can send those to, Bally?
ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. I think it's the downside of doing a game sort of in the build up to the end of the year, when there's a lot of stuff coming out, and we're playing a lot of stuff, and it just kind of got bundled under a lot of things.
It did, but we have had a lot of time in the early parts of this year to get stuck into it, and we are very stuck into it. I'm almost at the end, and I'm very much looking forward to discussing that game next time. So that is going to be the main bulk of the show when we return in 2 weeks. But for now, we're going to be talking about a bunch of other stuff. So Bally, tell the fine folks at home what this show will contain.
This show, we have what we have been playing for the first segment. Second segment will be your emails, and for the third segment, we thought we'd mix it up a bit, and we've introduced the Nontendo Quiz. So NBZ, you're going to test my Nontendo knowledge. By
Nontendo, we mean video game things that have nothing to do with Nintendo, essentially. Right,
but there is a little bit of Nintendo in there, I think, just to help me out in case I'm struggling.
Sure, just throw you a bit of a bone.
There we go.
No, we were going to do some jukebox stuff, but then I was like, I've had this idea for a while where I have all this stupid video game knowledge because I'm this stupid sponge of information when it comes to podcasts and media and all that stuff. And I just absorb all this shit, and I know all this useless information about video games. And Bali knows a lot about Nintendo, but he seems to just, everything that's not Nintendo just brushes over his head. So I want to test how much he has managed to absorb about video games that are not Nintendo. And I think it'll be a fun challenge, fun time. So
we should say the jukebox will return at some point.
Yes, of course, we'll come back to that. But I thought we'd just mix it up this time, have something a bit more fun, a bit more lighthearted, and see how it goes. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a good time. But let's kick things off with the video games we've been playing the last couple of weeks. As you said, Bally, you've been getting busy on that there Switch, haven't you?
Got very busy. Me and Caroline played an absolute ton of Overcooked. So for those who don't know, this is a co-op game where you are making food orders and then serving them in a kitchen. It's incredibly simple. You've got two actions, which is pick up and chop or wash is the other action, and that's it. And the two of you, it's up to 4 players, but the players run around the kitchen making food, preparing it, and serving it. And it's quite a simple concept. It originally came out like 2016 on other consoles, and then came to Switch in 2017. It was one of the earlier sort of indie games that came to the system, actually.
One of the bigger names that people have heard of, at least.
Yeah, and like so me and Caroline we were playing like a lot of Rocket League. That was like our go-to 2-player game. But before that, like our main co-op game, which we breezed through quite quickly, was Snipper Clips back when the Switch came out.
Right,
but between that and this game, we hadn't really done anything co-op.
It's funny because the Switch really seems to be getting a lot of those types of games. You were mentioning that you were interested in Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time as like maybe a potential next one.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. That's going to be next for sure. It seems like a perfect fit. And so I thought the concept of Overcooked was cool, but was something that would probably get quite old quite quickly. And I can't like sum up enough how opposite of that it actually is. Like, it is so addictive. We beat the entire campaign, and because this is the Overcooked Special Edition, there's 2 extra worlds, and we beat both those worlds as well. And were
they like holiday themed
one
DLC
of them,
packs?
Yeah, one of them is sort of winter holiday themed, very Christmassy, and you're making stuff like turkeys and Christmas stew and stuff like that, which is cool. And then the other one is sort of more tropical themed. We actually got 3 stars on every single mission in the entire special edition.
That is really, really impressive, because I know that when Gregg Miller was playing the game, he was having a mighty difficult time trying to get the 3 stars on every stage, because he was going through it with his friend, and like
hard.
They couldn't cooperate fully, and
it's really
like
hard.
everyone's shouting at each other. Like, it almost feels like maybe a relation breaking game to some degree.
There were times where we were like shouting at each other, definitely. Like, it makes you do that because there's an urgency, and sometimes someone doesn't spot something that the other does, and you have to tell the other person, and you're like, you don't clean that plate, and like you just end up shouting stuff.
It's one of those games about like ruthless efficiency, but it's not all on you. Like, because you're splitting the duties between 2 people, it can definitely, I feel the tension is definitely ready to explode at some point.
Yeah, it's so well done. Like the dishes, so you've got different dishes. You've got stuff like soups, which you basically chop three vegetables, usually the same vegetable, and you put it all in one pot, and then it takes time to cook on the pot, and then you have to go up to the pot with a plate, or you take the pot to the plate, or vice versa, which is cool because you can always mix it up depending on the level. Dirty plates come back, and then you have to wash those dirty plates. What else? There's stuff like burgers, so you have to beat the meat, and then put the meat on a frying pan, and then put that meat back on a bun with lettuce and a tomato. And like sometimes it's without tomato, sometimes it's without lettuce and tomato. It's just plain.
Right, depending on the order, because as you know, when you go to any restaurant, people are picky eaters and they want their tailor-made order for themselves. So it's pretty the funny thing about it is like it feels very true to reality, in the sense that kitchens can become places that are incredibly frantic, and someone leaves something on the hob for too long and it burns and it messes up and you have to restart.
The whole burning something is hilarious because there's a fire extinguisher in the game, and then there's a bin, so you have to put it out, and then you take the plate and bin the burnt thing, and then you keep going. And like, normally when you have to use the fire extinguisher, you're definitely like, it's almost impossible to get 3 stars, like almost impossible. I don't think it is impossible, but like, so the second the fire extinguisher came out, we'd normally restart the level. But we'd have to genuinely talk about strategy before. So we'd go into the level blind, play it, and be like, okay, we got 1 star, whatever, we beat it, let's stop and think, how do we get 3 stars, and then move on. And it's really cool because there's also stuff like pizzas where you're rolling out dough, and then what else is there, like there's plain salads, and like, I
imagine it just gets more and more complex as you go along. But the other thing that I found interesting when I was watching some of it in 2016 when it came out was there are some levels that really shake things up. Like, you're on a truck that is moving at the same time, and so half of the kitchen will split in half, so you'll be stuck in one section and not be able to get to the other because you have to wait for the truck to move back into place. There's
all sorts. There's kitchens with the lights off. You're literally just using a tiny torch in front of you and having to remember where everything is. There's icebergs, which float by systematically, and you have to cross between points, and if you fall in, it's like a 10-second delay or something, until you respawn. There's moving islands with lava around them. There's pirate ships with sliding counters that slide systematically as well. Like you said, there's the trucks. There's mice that steal your plates, your chopped food, your completed plates and everything. Some levels are just seriously insane, but the game is very well balanced, where some of the levels that are more complicated, the barrier to get 3 stars is much lower. And some of our favorite levels were actually the ones where there wasn't a whole lot putting you off in the kitchen, but the threshold to get 3 stars was incredibly high, and you had to absolutely nail everything to get that 3 stars, and they were very satisfying, because you just felt like you were making a ton of plates at once.
Right, because you'll end up having, because the orders pop up on the top of the screen, so you'll end up having like 7 things at once that you're trying to juggle at the same time. And I imagine when you nail every single aspect and you deliver every plate in order and get it. Also, I think there's this aspect of
tipping
people's patience and waiting. It seems like depending on where the timer is for that plate and when you get out during that timer, it's more successful.
You get 20 points for completing a plate plus tip, so it'll be an extra 2, 4, 6 or some. I don't think it goes up to 8. It's up to 6, so you get between nothing and 6 points extra. So you can sometimes get 26 points for a single plate. You get minus 10 points for missing an order, and that's the balance you're always weighing up, because you might want to think, oh, I've prepared this, I guess I'll miss that order but get a really high tip on this next plate or something. And so there's ways you can definitely get 3 stars on almost all the levels, even if you miss a couple of plates. And
is the value dependent on the complexity of the meal?
No, so like this, sometimes when you're running out of time and someone wants like a plain burger, you're just like, let's just make the plain burger and serve that. Like you're trying to get maximum points through that way. And like the campaign is well organized, where each level unlocks depending on a threshold of stars that you've unlocked. So like I say, you get 3 stars, 1, 2 or 3 stars for beating a level. To get to the next level is based on a threshold of stars. So to beat the main campaign, you do actually have to 3-star quite a lot of levels in order to see all the levels in the first place and then beat the main campaign.
And I've never really been a fan of that style of unlocking myself. I think Wario Land Shake It kind of does stuff like that, where you have to get enough money in order to get to the next place.
I didn't much like it in Wario Land, but I actually did quite like it in this game. But I think I liked it more in this game because we always had the intention of going back and getting 3 stars because we were loving the game so much. So if the game encourages you to play in that certain way anyway, then it's kind of intuitive to that degree. So that makes sense. Cool. So we were blown away, and we're really sad that it's done. And we want there to be a second game or something, because the concept is so strong, and like we should play sometime, MBZ.
Definitely. I imagine that if you start adding 4 players, it will start to get even more crazy, because they can increase the amount that they're giving you at once.
With 4 players, the speed at which stuff cooks and the speed at which you can chop stuff slows down. Like I think that's the way they balance it.
Right.
So you're expected to be, because you can be doing more things at once, obviously with 3 or 4 players. And then there's like a versus mode that we tried, but it's minimum 2 players each, so you're swapping between players, which is weird and awful, and there's just like this body floating around you that you don't want to. So anyway, but that didn't work. But it works great as a 2-player co-op game. We had an absolute blast, and I can't recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, that sounds great. I imagine just in 4 players, you would more be in the sense of like giving people individualized roles. So like you're the vegetable chopper, you are the person who cooks, you're the person who washes plates and serves, or like it seems like because you have more bodies, you're able to delegate a bit more easily in that sense.
Sure. We tried to do stuff like that numerous times, but we always ended up on most of the kitchens, because some of them you're forced to do certain things, but like often, because chopping a vegetable and picking it up, you might as well put it in the pot so you're responsible for picking up a vegetable, chopping it, and then putting it in the pot. That's almost
instead of just leaving it there.
Yeah, like that's almost the majority of the process, I guess. Like especially if that pot is already on the heat, for example. So like you can get really meta about this game very quickly, and we were because we were just
ruthless efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. Like It's such a great game, and I just found myself in like everyday life after playing it being really wired, and like when I'm making dinner, I'm like, oh, I've got to put this on before that because it's more efficient and I'll save time. And like,
did it improve the efficiency of your own cooking?
Exactly, and like I generally think I'm quite an efficient person when it comes to like, let's do this task, and while that's cooking, and like I do like cooking, and like this game just sort of got those juices flowing, and
that's cool.
It was good.
Great.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
Another game I played and beat in my short break was Night in the Woods, which was everyone was talking about this game last year. It's finally came out on Switch just start of this month, I think. So this is a hugely story-driven game. I'm not going to give away story stuff that I'm going to talk about now, but I'm going to talk about stuff in the game that's not directly linked to the story. So like I felt like a big part of this game was that I knew nothing about it, and then as I was playing I was like, oh, that's quirky, that's cool. So if you want to go in completely blind,
because I know the setup of Night in the Woods is that you are this anthropomorphic cat who comes home from university, right, and you know you're back in your old town and you're seeing how life has changed and progressed since you've been there, and your old friends and what everyone's doing, and that it has like platforming elements. Right, it's funny because I'm thinking about like Celeste and Night in the Woods, and the fact that you can define both of those games as narrative platformers in a sense, even though one of them is clearly way more of a platformer and one of them is way more a narrative game.
Right. Yeah, the platforming elements in Night in the Woods are very minimal at most. But anyway, I'm going to talk about some stuff, so if you don't want to hear anything more than basically what MBZ just said, I'd switch off now. But if you're interested but you don't want me to give away anything story, I won't. I'm not going to talk about story, so keep listening if you want.
I'll put a timestamp in the description for when we start talking about something else after this, if you want to skip.
Perfect. So yeah, as you said, you play as May, who has dropped out of university and has come back home to Possum Springs, her hometown, and as a sort of simple idea, it builds on that one thing so well, and I've never experienced such good writing in a video game. I've not played a huge number of narrative-driven games, absolutely not. But
being a Nintendo fan, you don't get to experience that much of that stuff.
Being a Nintendo fan, I've not seen many of them, but the writing is so strong. I've never played a game that has felt so based in the real world and actually addresses real situations that are happening at this very moment in time, and some of the tropes and the ideas that this gets over. It talks about Trump's America in a way that I never even thought this game was going to do.
Wow.
And it does it so well, where Possum Springs is a city, a town, I should say, that was not thriving before, but it was more, things were happening more before. So the fact there was a factory there, and there were mines, and like there was a sense of community, there were strong trade unions, there were these things that people look back on fondly, and everyone has a different interpretation of what went wrong with Possum Springs to the point that they're at now. No one in the town that you meet likes their job, not a single person, and they're working in small shops and like working at the butchers and things like this, and like jobs that they don't feel they enjoy at all, and they're literally just doing those jobs to make money, etc., etc. And you as May, you're like, the reasons why you drop out of uni all become clear, and I'm not going to get into that, but this game really addresses everything from like domestic abuse to depression and anxiety, and what's happened to society and public funding, and there's even stuff talking about gun rights and stuff, and there's stuff talking about what politicians do for us, and all these ideas and the list goes on and on and on of all these very real ideas that
it seems antithetical then that it's all these cats and dogs and animals wandering around in this very grounded reality.
See, I was explaining, my colleague at work, she was like, oh, what did you do with your time off? I was like, well, I played a really great game. It's called Night in the Woods, and I just listed all this fairly depressing stuff. And then she was like, that sounds awful. Why did you play that? I was like, oh, no. Like, it's a really great story. It's a really great game. And I showed her the trailer, and she was taken aback by the art style and the look and the fact that you're playing as a cat.
Right, because I imagine when you're talking about this game, you're talking about characters and you're talking about their lives and narratives. And I imagine for a normal person, they just imagine a human and a real world.
Right.
And it is based in, a real kind of place that is based off, a place in America. But it's, cartoon cats and stuff running around. It's one of those things with video games, we get very used to that abstraction. And for a lot of people who don't engage with games in that way, I don't think they really know this type of experience exists out there,
Right. No, exactly. And I guess it's something that's kind of... There's a lot more shorter narrative-driven games in the indie scene, I feel, in the last 5-6 years than perhaps before that period before.
Yeah, but it's also because AAA games can't really get into this territory. Like, they're too big budget and mainstream to be able to tell these kind of grounded stories.
Yeah, but I mean, there are, like, with the credits, there's a lot of people who worked on this game and stuff like that, and I can't get around how great the writing is and the ideas about society that this game puts forward. Like, for example, coming out of you always start the day like coming out of your house, and
so I was just going to ask you about the structure and how it works, because
Right.
I've heard people say that you get to choose who you hang out with, and in terms of like where you progress individual stories and different characters,
Right.
Because that kind of feels like Persona to me, where you have a schedule of some sort that you are managing.
There is a day schedule as such, and that loop of getting up, waking up in your house, and then you essentially do one big thing a day, kind of, where you have the option of seeing a number of different people, and then they say, oh, do you want to do this thing? And then you can say, no, I'm good just now, and come back to them later and then do that thing. And then you sometimes have multiple offers. So like there was one point where the game promised me to do 3 different things, and I ended up doing 2 different things.
Okay.
And I think I probably could have done 3 different things if I just played it a bit differently. But stuff, you get into a routine which is so... It's so unique because the game is trying to get over to you how monotonous life and how routine life can become and monotonous it can become, and the process of like you see your mum every morning and you see your dad every night before you go to bed, and like you have these really like a lot of the conversations are very empty and plain, and like she has a really difficult relationship with her parents, which is another huge part of the game, but the relationships, these monotonous, what start off as monotonous relationships, evolve, and you get really in-depth conversations, and it's that path of like seeing that person every day and then speaking to them every day, and then eventually 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in, all of a sudden you're discussing all these things from like your past and all these and it's like, wow, I can't believe what this game is doing and like making me feel. And like I would say that the game can be very triggering. It like talks about so many issues that games generally just don't talk about, and like lots of people don't talk about, especially to do with mental health. And I don't think you come away from the game... I don't want to give away story stuff, but you don't come away from the game feeling like, wow, that made me feel really good, because you know that this town that they're portraying is so real, and so many people, especially in central United States, live in situations like this, and it's really just mind-blowing what this game does on that level. One example I would give, tiny character in the game, but a really interesting take, was two points I'll give. One was the guy, so there's like this old guy outside your house, and he's like, oh mate, you've never done anything good for society. I remember back in the day, and he's like saying all these things, and then before all those, and he starts going on a rant about like immigrants, and then he goes on a rant about how the mayor does nothing, and he's just so he'll blame everyone in the world but himself, sort of that character. And it's just like, wow, that guy is so real. Like, he is so...
You've seen that guy before.
It's like, everyone has seen this guy before, on whether they're on telly or whatever. Like, everyone knows this guy. And likewise, like, your aunt in this game is a cop. And you ask your aunt, like, why have you got a gun? And then her aunt's like, well, that's for security. It's like, oh, have you ever killed anyone with that gun? And then she's like, no, I've never killed anyone. It's like, oh, did you wound someone? And it's like, yeah, I did. It's like, well, couldn't you have used a different weapon just to wound someone? And it's like making this point, like, what's the point in police having guns if they're not going to, I mean, obviously they do sometimes kill people,
yeah,
but
gosh,
it opens this big debate about what's the point in this policeman having a gun if they've not actually done anything with it. Is it just to threaten us all? Sort of these ideas. So I could go on with a long list of things this game touches on. And it's very, very impressive how much it touches on in such a short space of time. Even though the game's about maybe 8-9 hours long, which is quite long for a game of this style, I would argue. But
sure.
It's very impressive how much this game covers, and I came away from it feeling very satisfied about everything that it was portraying. Like, I was like, I really enjoyed that. Like, it gave across a message of, there's a lot of things wrong with society and we need to work together to fix them. And it conveys a very specific political message about how to fix those issues, and I liked it.
Do you think that it has a hopeful tone in it when it comes to that stuff? Because I feel like a lot of media that talks about those issues sometimes comes away not looking positively towards the future.
It's hopeful, yes, and there's positive character development, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good. It's a great game.
I definitely need to get to it for sure. It's one of those games that hearing people talk about last year got me very interested, and I definitely want to check it out and see. So
nice.
I'll give that a go.
You might have to do a spoiler cast or something, but yeah, there's a lot of cool things to talk about.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, definitely. Seems like one of those games we need to discuss more in depth. No, the last thing I was going to say is, like, you played Oxenfree recently, which is in a similar style of game.
See, I thought the Oxenfree writing was actually really strong, and then I was like,
yeah.
Nope, it's not strong in the slightest compared to this. Like,
that's what I was going to ask you, like, in terms of like the portrayal of that kind of age or whatever.
If you're a millennial, so of the age between, at this point in time, I think that counts as anyone from about the age of 21,
something like that,
to about the age of 35. Genuinely, like it's so fitting to that generation. And not just in the political messages it's talking about, but the language, and that it's got internet culture just woven through the language, like, very cleverly. Like, it's really impressive.
All right.
Yeah, check it out.
Great. I will do that. So yeah, you've played a lot of stuff, Ballot. I'm also going through Final Fantasy VI at the same time.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Through that. I've also been going through Final Fantasy VI, but I've also just been obsessed with Celeste, my friends. I can't stop playing Celeste. It helps that at the moment.
You must be past like 30 hours, 35 hours.
Yeah, so I checked today and my Switch says 30 hours. So that's a lot of time. Because it's weird, because the main campaign probably only took me about 7 or 8 hours to go through. And it's just all the stuff after that I've been absolutely devouring. So one of the things that I didn't talk about last time regarding Celeste is that every room is a challenge in dexterity, but before it becomes a challenge in dexterity, it becomes a mental challenge. It becomes a puzzle of figuring out what you need to do and in what order you need to do it to get through that thing. So every time you get to a new place in Celeste, there are 2 barriers you overcome. The first is beating the level in your head, and the second is beating the level with your fingers. And it's very clever about that, because I don't think a lot of games like this have tried to weave in puzzle solving in that way. Like Super Meat Boy, you do need to figure things out, but I think a lot of the time it's more plain. It's more obvious what you need to go, where you need to go, and what you need to do to achieve that end goal. Whereas Celeste is much more abstract about it, and because it has these simple mechanics, it can get away with layering on complexity to them. So examples such as you're standing or climbing on the side of something that will move forward and give you momentum. If you jump while it is moving or at the end of its movement, you'll get a great deal of momentum and you'll push yourself forward. So there's an example of, there's this one level where you have to jump, get to a thing that's moving, let it boing you in the air, and then you jump down the other side and like do a wall jump off the way to get there. And you need to basically figure out the order in which to do it, and how you get there before you actually achieve the literal doing it with your fingers. And that happens constantly, and it's there are a lot of times in these later levels where they're introducing even more like advanced mechanics, which are much more difficult to pull off, and then you have to pull them off in this series of jumps that are insane. There's in the second world, I believe, there are these kind of space blocks that you go through. As soon as you dash, you will zoom into one, and it will eject you out the other side, and you'll get some momentum off of it. And then later on, the game tells you that if you go through it and then tap the jump button just as you come out the other side, you will get a different angle, and so your height will change. You'll get a jump off of it, which then allows you to reach another place. And so it teaches you, like, okay, this is how you do this. Starts out very simple, and then by the end, you're having to string together all this crazy shit, which is using that advanced mechanic, and then later on learning even more stuff. There's one where you dash to a side of an object and then press the B button to jump off the side, and you get momentum from that dash into the jump. It's really like speedrunning in a sense, and this game in its hardest levels really makes you feel like a speedrunner, because you are just pitch perfectly, frame accurately destroying these levels. And it takes a lot of practice and precision to do, but there is such a deep satisfaction that I found in figuring things out. And it is the B-sides, which are the kind of like more difficult challenges, that crystallize that in my mind. Of it was great going through the main story, and I think it's so well paced and it gives you ample challenge, but the stuff that I was really encouraged by and really blown away by was the B-side levels, where you are just going from thing to thing that seems to, it makes you push the limits on the game systems in a way that you didn't think was possible before. And I just found that incredibly impressive. And it's weird because I don't really go into games this deep that often, but I'm just so enamored with the way that Celeste controls and the way that the levels are built, and just the real bite-sized nature of every retry and every room and every area, that I just want to keep going. It's so incredibly hard to put this game down. It's just impossible.
It sounds like there's not a ton of people going as deep as you're going. Like I know there's a few, it feels like a lot of people are trying out the B-sides here and there, but that's, I guess that's perfectly understandable, because there's plenty of people out there saying, like, I'm struggling like hell just to beat the main story, and like,
and don't get me wrong, like, this is a genre that I thrive on. This is one of my favorite styles of game.
They gave it a name on Giant Beastcasts.
Oh, it's so good. People need to use the term splatformer more, because it is so perfect in terms of describing.
I'd love to see a Nintendo take on a splatformer.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like that, because I always called them masochistic platformers, like Super Meat Boy and VVV.
Bit long-winded.
A little bit, yeah. It's not. It's nowhere near as streamlined as Vinny Caravella's splatformer naming convention. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are turned off by the high difficulty, and that's understandable. There are the assist mode things in there, which you can change and do if you want. But honestly, if you're doing the B-side with assist mode, you're missing the point of the B-sides. Like, the B-sides are there as a challenge. I can see why you'd use the assist mode in the main story, because some people just want to see the writing and the characters and all that stuff and get to the end and see how it all wraps up, essentially.
Are you going to beat every single level then?
So, right now, I just came back on the bus. My last 2-3 bus trips, I've been on this one, not even this one level, this one room. I've maybe been...
And it's a long bus trip, you should add. So
it's an hour both ways.
Right.
And I've been stuck on this one room for maybe 3.5 or 4 hours total.
God.
It is, so after you beat all the B-sides, which I should mention, I've beaten every B-side, which is insane.
And there's one for every level in the game.
Yeah, so there are 8 levels. The way it works is there's 7 main chapters, and then if you go through and get a collectible, there are these like hearts that are hidden in each level, and I just went and looked up a YouTube video to find where they are, because they are pretty deviously hidden in a way that I don't care to go looking for. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I don't find interesting about these games, is the open-ended exploration
agree,
of finding the real hard-to-find secrets. And these secrets are super fucking obscure, so I wouldn't have found them on my own. But you have to find those to unlock the 8th chapter, and then when you go through all the B-sides, you need to get all the additional hearts and have all the B-sides completed to get the B-side version of the last chapter available to you. Because it basically, if you go into it, it just has this door that's blocking you, and it says you need to collect all these things to enter. So that's what I've collected all the stuff, aside from the strawberries, which I don't really feel necessary to. But one of the other great things that it does is, even when I was going around collecting that stuff, you get there, you collect it, and then you just hit exit level, and you don't lose anything. You keep everything you've got. And I think the game does that because it wants to keep your death counter accurate. So if you were to just get into a level and then quit halfway through and not have your deaths count, it wouldn't be able to like add them up. So every time you enter a level, your death count is constantly rising. There's no way to delete that information. It will constantly be there. So I think that's why the game is structured that way. But I am glad that it delivers on that promise of, you know, because as we talked about before, like with Donkey Kong as the main example, you have to finish the level, even if you have one Kong letter left to get and it's right at the beginning and you're like, oh, I forgot that one, I need to go back and get that one.
Yeah.
You can't just exit the level and have it still. You have to finish the level with that thing in order to count. And I think that removing that friction is a lot of the reason why Celeste has got its hooks into me, because it never says no. It always says, go for it, you can do this. Like, it has that real positive tone and message in its storytelling, and then the gameplay end of it holds up the bargain as well. So anyway, as I was saying, when you go through all of that shit, you unlock what are called the C-sides, which are even more fucking devious challenges. I've completed 4 of those. I'm on the 5th chapter C-side right now.
So you got 3 more?
Yeah, so this one plus 3 more. And they're 3 rooms each. The first 2 rooms are usually kind of just a warm-up. The third room is an insane gauntlet that asks you to put together all these skills you've learned this far.
And are the other things in the game 3 rooms, or is that
No.
too short or too long?
No, that's very short. 3
Very
rooms
short,
is tiny.
right.
It's hardly anything. Like, most levels have, like, you know, hundreds of, not hundreds, but like in that kind of echelon comparative to this. And yeah, that final room is just a nightmare, but it also is incredible when you finish it. So I'm just still going through that, and I don't know that I will ever beat it, but goddamn am I going to try. And I'm 30 hours deep. I think I'm going to keep going, so we shall see. But yeah, I just wanted to keep singing Celeste's praise because it's just so good, and people need to play this game. It's phenomenal.
I think in the same way you want to play Night in the Woods, I need to play Celeste. Like, I just absolutely
definitely
have to play that game.
Got to do a crossover.
Swap over.
Yeah. The other thing I've been playing is, and I finished, although technically didn't because I can't really fucking be bothered. It's Gravity Rush 2, Bally.
Sounds positive.
Yeah, it's Gravity Rush 2. So I played the original Gravity Rush on Vita back in the day. It was free on PlayStation Plus back when I was still subscribed to the service. And I enjoyed Gravity Rush. It was a fun kind of open world on a handheld, which was more of a unique experience because the Switch didn't exist back then, so we didn't have that kind of console level. Yeah, Breath of the Wild, one thing, but like just that console open world style of game didn't exist on these types of platforms. And the things I liked about the original Gravity Rush were the movement was really cool because you are essentially a superhero. You can fly around everywhere. The way it works is like you turn on your gravity and then you flip the camera and then you turn your gravity off and you fall to the ground wherever gravity is. So you're walking on the sides of buildings, you're walking underneath things, you're just finding all these hidden areas and stuff like that. And one of my favorite things about open world games in the traditional sense are ones that offer a bunch of collectibles that increase some sort of metric on you, whether it be your health or in the case of the original Gravity Rush, the amount of gravity meter you have, which means the amount of time you can stay airborne without having to refresh it. So like in Infamous, I always go around and collect the shards, especially in Infamous 1, because they are like every single corner, every building, there is at least one thing like out the corner of your eye, and I kept getting distracted when I was playing the original Infamous trying to find every shard possible. And the same was with the original Gravity Rush, was I was finding these shards underneath buildings and everywhere, and it was a dense enough, small enough city to where it felt really challenging to go around and try and get into those nooks and crannies you wouldn't think about. The problem with Gravity Rush 2 is that it does that again, but in this case the city is way, way bigger, And I don't know if this is the case or not, but I thought that they were respawning when I was finding the shards. So what you have the case is like these shards, that there are way too many of them this time, so it doesn't feel rewarding when you find them or go after them. And apparently they maybe respawn, although I haven't looked into that. Just I had this feeling, either that or they're just way too many of them and I was getting confused and all the buildings look the same. So that's one issue. But then the second issue is, in this game, when you're upgrading your gravity stuff, you're just upgrading your attacks, like your gravity kick or your ground melee attack or your special move. And it just, like, when upgrades do that, it just feels very underwhelming to me. Whenever you're just ticking up a counter to make you more powerful, like putting the numbers up, I just don't feel invested in that upgrade system. It doesn't feel genuine or necessary. Like, I just didn't feel like I had to go out there and find them, and they were also very expensive to upgrade. So I was just like, well, I enjoyed this part of the last game, but now I'm not really. It's not very engaging at this point. It doesn't do what I want it to, and that was really disappointing because that was the part I was initially enjoying. And there are parts I really like about Gravity Rush 2. Like, it's got fantastic animation. Like when Kat is like running around and jumping and falling, it's this kind of anime cartoon look mixed kind of with comic book style, because a lot of the cutscenes are these comic book panels that you flick through. So it's got a nice intersection of those two aesthetics. But the real problem is it just falls into generic open world design way too much. It honestly feels like a PS2 game in terms of the types of missions it gives to you. One of the worst things you can do in a game like this is to restrict the player, because Gravity Rush is all about freedom in its mechanics. The idea that you can float about anywhere, that you can stick on buildings and hit things mid-air, and you're attacking in the air, and you're floating up, and you're falling down, and all this stuff. And there are so many places where you're in an indoor environment where the camera just cannot keep up with you, because the idea of floating everywhere means that you get caught in corners and it's hard to see, and you feel very constrained. And then there are times when it puts you into stealth missions. And stealth missions, at the best of times, are not my favorite thing. So stealth missions that are fucking bad and automatically fail you when you mess up and you have no idea why you messed up are instantly off-putting to me. I cannot stand it when, like, one of the reasons I love things like Mark of the Ninja and Metal Gear Solid 5 is that first of all, they're stealth games, so they're designed for that. But if you fuck up, you can correct your mistake and you can change things in the fly. You don't have to instantly fail. When the fail state exists, that's when it becomes unfun, because you're like, did he see me? I don't know. I can't see these vision cones. I don't know where this person is. And it's also just really slow. It's supposedly methodical, I guess, but I just find it fucking boring. I find stealth missions like that and not engaging. They don't do anything for me. They're not fun. And they, again, to get to the core of what makes Gravity Rush good, they're restrictive. They do not allow you to get into the things that are a joy in that game. And so it's a combination of that, and it's also, hey, how about we take away this mechanic you've been used to and had fun with and just give you this other mechanic that's way more cumbersome and not really that interesting, because they introduced these two new gravity styles in this game. One is Lunar, which is like lightweight and you can like bounce and you can kind of float through the air more easily, and the other one is Moon Gravity, I think, which is very heavy. Well, I guess Lunar and Moon are the same thing. I can't remember what the other one is called. Whatever, they're stupid naming conventions. And it's much heavier and you can do like much more damaging attacks, but you have these places where you have to be tutorialized in those, and so they take away your gravity power to learn them, and that's just a pain in the ass. And then you get later on in the game and they're like, okay, now you don't have this ability anymore, try and beat these enemies without that ability. I'm like, well, no, that's not fun. That's not why I play this game. It feels like it's constantly taking away the good parts of the game design and forcing things in there just for the sake of attempted mission variety, which in itself is not even that interesting variety, and it ends up being frustrating. So I'm really disappointed with Gravity Rush 2, because it's a formula that they had a great idea with and that I enjoyed initially, but in trying to expand it, make it bigger, and try to be a bit more ambitious with it, they've ended up becoming more generic and not having as unique a flavor, and ultimately creating a boring game that was more frustrating than fun to play. And that sucks, because it's a game that I heard good things about from a lot of people. I don't see where the praise is coming from. It's just, it didn't jive with me whatsoever. So there's a bummer note to end on, but Hey, at least I know now. At least I've done it. Gravity Rush 2.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
So we will be back after the break. So don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about some of your emails after some of this music. We shall return.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It is time for the second segment, and that means it is time for your emails. We put out the call last week, and we got quite a few emails, so we're going to go through some of them. And I'll remind you, at the top of the segment, if you'd like to send us an email, please send it to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We always need more.
Keep sending them. Don't stop now. Don't stop me now. As Freddie Mercury said, don't stop me now.
Don't stop now. Our first email is a point of order, a point of information from Rickard, who's from the internet. Hi, thanks for an entertaining podcast. I heard your discussion on Dragon Warrior, where it was discussed if this was the first digital RPG made. It should be noted that this is not the first computer-based RPG, where probably the most famous RPG series being released before is Ultima. The first game, Akalabeth, was released in 1979, and Ultima 1 to 4 are all being released prior to Dragon Warrior, released 1986. Ultima 4 is considered by many as one of the best RPGs ever made. I haven't played it myself, currently trying to tackle Ultima 7, but understand most of the Ultima games to be very groundbreaking. P.S. Ultima series are made by Origin Systems, i.e. considered Western RPGs. All the best, Rickard.
Well, thank you, Rickard, for giving us that, because we were having that discussion when I was playing through the original Dragon Warrior about, because you had asked me, like, is this the first digital RPG ever made? I was like, well, it's probably the first Japanese one. I don't know, because I knew that computer RPGs had existed in the West prior to that.
Right.
And so, yeah, Ultima is a series I've constantly heard about. I don't really know anything about it, but people always talk about it in that kind of like terms of, yes, it's very influential, and it was kind of the starting point, as it were. So that's good to know that that's where things started. And thinking about people playing RPGs in 1979, Bally, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably pretty hard to go back and play now, but it's still cool that they exist.
Yeah, very impressive. I mean, like, obviously a lot of these games have the Dungeons and Dragons influence over them. Like, I think you start with Tolkien in the 50s and Tolkien setting up the kind of fantasy tropes that still exist to this day, and then Dungeons and Dragons, like, taking on those tropes and evolving them, and then that evolving through digital RPGs to nowadays where everything is kind of from that original origin point.
Right.
So, yeah, it's cool to see that's where it all started, essentially.
I think we said on the show a while back, I was like, you can't have Pokemon without Tolkien, and it's like a long thread that kind of links it all together. But that's weird to think about. We've been there before, but we won't go in depth this time. But
absolutely,
yeah. If anyone else who's got a point of information that we might have
a correction, say,
like something we've missed out or something we've gotten wrong, or just some interesting thing to say, let us know. Very welcome. Thank you, Rickard. So our next email is from Gwen B, who's from Japan. Hello, MVZ and Bally. I've been listening to your podcast for quite some time now, and I wanted to hear your opinions on this matter. What do you think will be Nintendo's hard hitter this holiday season? Thanks again, and greetings from Japan.
Hard hitter is one of those terms that I don't know where it comes from. Is it baseball, or I feel like that's the imagery that comes into my head. Yeah.
Because in baseball we have like a designated hitter. So the designated hitter, they don't have to field. They just hit. So they're usually like a bit bulkier, not very sort of athletic, but they can hit that ball a very long way.
Okay.
So it's like a hard hitter, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, anyway, that aside, Nintendo needs to have someone step up to the plate, so to speak, for the end of this year. So this is an interesting question because in the past, I feel like we've raked Nintendo over the coals for not having hard hitters in the holiday season.
Yeah.
Most notably during the Wii U era, where they did, like, sometimes, like, they had Mario 3D World one year and stuff like that. But near the end, we had this point where it was Mario Tennis and the Animal Crossing board game.
It was like 3 years in a row almost where it felt like there was nothing hard hitting.
Yeah, like they put out things that may be considered franchise games, but they weren't the kind of things that are the tent poles, the ones that we always point to.
Like cutting out all the rest, in my mind, I've listed them here. In my mind, there are 6 hard hitting Nintendo franchises, and anything that aren't these 6 franchises, while it might sell quite well, it doesn't sell incredibly well. So the 6 I've got are Mario. You can divide that into 2D and 3D. The same with Zelda. So Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and Super Smash Brothers. In my mind, there's nothing else that is in that top echelon. I think you could maybe argue stuff like Fire Emblem since Awakening.
Yes.
That sells quite well. I don't know if it's as high as these other 6, but...
Well, so far with the new Fire Emblem games, they haven't been positioned in a holiday season yet.
No.
They are released in April or February kind of time, sort of start of the year, and that has done pretty successfully for them. And I don't know, perhaps it's because they have been handheld up until, like, since like the Super Nintendo, I guess the Famicom. No, they had Wii and GameCube releases, but since then there hasn't been a major console one. So the potential of Fire Emblem coming back to a big console, and obviously the Switch being so successful this time, I think now is maybe the one opportunity that Fire Emblem could slot into a holiday potential slot at this point.
And out of the 6 I listed, we've already had Mario, we've already had Zelda, we've already had a Mario Kart. I think it's far too soon to have another Mario Kart. So you're left with the 3 of Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and Smash Brothers, which are definitely all rumors floating around for this year. I think it's quite likely that we might even get 2 out of those 3 in the whole year. I think it's more likely we only have 1. I think in our initial predictions, you were definitely siding a lot more with the idea of Smash Brothers by the end of this year, probably a bit earlier than that holiday slot, but still a big hitter.
So I know that because the Nintendo Online is scheduled for September, that's why Smash Brothers I'm feeling more around that time. And the only reason that I would say Smash Brothers isn't the holiday game is because with it probably being more of a port than a new game, it feels a little bit hollow to be releasing your big holiday title as just a re-release of an old game, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've seen people say that it's big enough, like it has the cachet, but to me, you need to have something new and different and exciting in order to really capture people at that time of year. And I don't know that Smash Brothers is it.
Just to add to the 6, maybe you could argue Splatoon should be in that 6 as well. I don't know if it's...
Well, now you can, but obviously, just Splatoon, if we're talking about Japan, 100%. Splatoon is the number 1 Nintendo franchise in Japan right now. Like, nothing is gonna surpass that. Pokemon potentially, but aside from that, like Splatoon, it has outsold Mario, Zelda, everything. It's outsold Mario Kart. It is a juggernaut over there, and I do think that we can count it among the most popular, like, big sellers nowadays. So yeah,
I read somewhere online, I don't know if it was one of our listeners perhaps, that Pokemon's a bit damned if it does, damned if it doesn't, where if it comes out this year, it's likely going to be very similar to the last engine, probably graphically and a lot of things.
Yes.
It might not even be a new generation, who knows? And it might get a lot of criticism for not changing it up enough, because of course Pokemon never changes it up enough. But likewise, if it waits a year or 2, it'll be like, oh, what an opportunity missed. Like, Pokemon still hasn't come out on the Switch. It's obviously a huge system seller. Why not do it in 2018? So I guess you could argue Animal Crossing is similar, like, but having said that, New Leaf came out quite some time ago versus the last.
It was like
Pokemon.
2013,
right?
Although they did, if you remember, they did a Nintendo Direct where they basically refreshed Animal Crossing on 3DS and almost made it not a new game, but it was like an expansion had been released for it.
It's quite a lot of extra stuff, yeah.
So I'm interested to see how that will be perceived, like, because Animal Crossing is a game that a lot of people like and enjoy, but I wonder, like, as a big holiday hitter, whether it's something that is going to get people stoked. Because from speaking personally, Animal Crossing doesn't get me stoked. Like it's okay. I've had my great Animal Crossing experience, and unless they really do something radical, I don't know that I'm going to have that same experience again with the series.
By missing New Leaf, I am definitely stoked for Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
but that's not necessarily a praise to Animal Crossing that I had to miss a whole game.
Yeah,
in the franchise just to get excited about the following game. That's not necessarily a load of praise, but I am stoked for Animal Crossing, whatever it is, and whenever it may be. I think it's perfectly likely that Animal Crossing could be the holiday hitter, and I think Pokemon might wait an extra year. And I think that you're right. Smash Brothers could come out in September with the online system. Like all those things could happen, and then I think Fire Emblem probably a bit earlier than that September slot. So you're looking at some really big games.
They still have to announce what the Fire Emblem game even is. Fire Emblem for Switch was the first 2018 game they talked about, and they talked about it in this time last year, because it was just after the January event that they had the Fire Emblem Direct, and in that they were like, okay, we're making a Fire Emblem Switch game, and it's coming out in 2018. So to me that says that Fire Emblem Switch is probably going to be late summer potentially, despite the fact that we haven't heard anything.
Yeah, and I think that fills in the pre-E3 Direct, where I think the E3 Direct will focus a lot, or digital event will focus a lot more on that holiday game and Smash Brothers. If it is Smash Brothers and Animal Crossing, I think E3 is the time and place that you do those things, and that you can spend a lot more time focusing on Fire Emblem if it is end of summer in an upcoming Direct in the next month or two.
Speaking of Pokemon, the one way that I see that they could position Pokemon as an exciting thing and be more, not revolutionary, but look more next generation, is if they were to go back and do a remake of another game. The obvious one would be to go back and just go with nostalgia once more and do Red and Blue again.
Right. But they are on Diamond and Pearl, right?
Technically, if they were to keep going, but Diamond and Pearl is not going to hit the numbers. That's not going to get people as excited as if you go back to Red and Blue for a third time.
A Red Blue remake on Switch would be insane, wouldn't it? That would get everyone.
I don't think it would really be insane. I think that's just the most Game Freak thing possible. I just think that they lean heavily, and they, with the success of Pokemon Go, have seen that people have the affinity for that original 150 more than anything else, obviously, because that's when it was the biggest phenomenon in the world. And so, I've heard people throw around the idea that they could do a sequel to Red and Blue, like Red and Blue 2 or something, which would be weird. But even if they did that, you would at least have the base design work done, because the world that you're inhabiting is going to be the same. The thing you'd have to do, obviously, is expand it and make it a bit larger and make it feel more like a modern game, as it were, less restricted and that kind of stuff. And that probably takes a lot of time and effort to do. But the other thing that's been popping up recently is, I don't know if you've seen, but people have figured out that they are localizing the Pokemon Switch game right now, or they have people in the process of localizing that game. So I don't know if that's something that they're just doing early in the process, because of course we saw with stuff like Xenoblade 2, it had a simultaneous release in Japan and in the West. Yeah, and I guess they were on these projects now, Nintendo wanting to have worldwide releases. I think they are just trying to make sure localization is happening as the game is being made, simultaneously being worked on, so that they are better positioned to just drop it everywhere at once and not have to do a marketing push in these different areas at different times. So that would indicate the fact that they're working on localization now. People have gone back in previous years and said, okay, at this point in time on this development, they were scheduled for a late year release. So that gives more credence to the fact that the Pokemon is the big game. If I were a betting man, I would bet that Pokemon is their holiday hitter for this year. That's the one that makes most sense to me. It's the one that will make them the most money. It's also the one that, if quite frankly they shit it out, it will make a ton of money anyway. So they really can't go wrong with Pokemon. It's a slam dunk no matter what they do, and if it looks interesting enough, maybe I'll even be interested in it. That's fucking crazy, but I doubt it.
Just to be different, I'll side with Animal Crossing for now, but I'm sure this will be revealed at E3, and we will of course cover that very, very much in depth. On to
and
our
also
next.
people who think Metroid Prime 4 has any chance in hell, just keep
Well,
dreaming,
that
son.
was my prediction at the start of the year.
Keep
I'm already
fucking
feeling
dreaming,
like,
son. There is no way in hell that game is out this year.
Perhaps, or maybe not. But our next email is from Kevin, who's from the internet. Hi, MBZ and Bally. Recently discovered the podcast and really loving going back through old podcasts. I have a question for you that might be a bit different, as it's not about games per se, but more about gaming in society. I grew up a huge Nintendo fan with the Game Boy and the N64. I have such fond memories of games like Pokemon, DK, Banjo-Kazooie and Perfect Dark, for example. However, I didn't buy a GameCube, Wii or Wii U. I often found myself in game shops or watching Let's Plays, but couldn't allow myself to spend more time on games because I felt I should be doing something else with my time. I recently got a Switch and I'm really enjoying it. Have you guys struggled with any of these emotions? Thanks, Kevin.
All right. So I think there have definitely been times for both of us where we haven't been playing as many games, or we've like drawn back from playing games. Even when I was younger, I didn't tend to play games a lot on my own. It was only when friends came around or when I went round to friends' houses that I would really be comfortable playing games in a weird way. There was something about me being in control of games, like especially like things like Pokemon were easier, and I think the abstraction of RPGs is that you don't have direct control over a character, and so there's not as much like pressure there or whatever. And so when I was playing games, I always needed someone with me as a, I don't know, support mechanism almost, to enjoy the game alongside me. So that was, I don't know, it's a weird thing to articulate, but that was the kind of way that I felt about games when I was growing up.
I was very similar, and I always had my most enjoyable experiences of games like Zelda, especially games like Wind Waker, which were huge for me growing up.
Because we were very intimidated by those games.
Very intimidated. It was way more enjoyable being with someone else, and we've said numerous times how you would print off a big long guide and take me step by step.
Just go to Game Facts and just like waste all the paper in your printer and just print it all off. Oh, man.
So yeah, I was the same. We would play a lot more multiplayer at friends' houses. Mario Party, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart. These were the big hitters at the time. And before that, actually, my parents were quite adverse to the idea of game systems. So what ended up happening was that I'd end up PC gaming, and it's like that's not a reasonable solution anyway, because you're still playing games. If they're against games, they should have stopped me playing that at the same time. But anyway, I played quite a lot of PC games sort of in the late 90s era, and then I got a Game Boy from my cousin for a birthday present, I believe. And then from getting a Game Boy, I got a second-hand N64 at the very end of its life cycle, when games like Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Stadium 2 were coming out sort of in 2000, 2001. And then GameCube was like a huge thing that I got on launch. But like you said, I definitely was under pressure at times from my parents, where it's like, shouldn't you be doing something that's not video games? And it's like, well, fine, but when you step back and look at the rest of society, like, what do people spend that time instead doing? They watch like Netflix series, they watch pointless things, they read rubbish magazines. It's like everyone has a thing that might not be massively constructive, but it's still really fun. And like part of this plays into the idea that we do this podcast, and it's something incredibly constructive, but at the same time is massively relaxing and fun. And I don't want to hold that against anyone who just plays games for the joy of playing games. You should be doing that and do that for the joy of playing games. And there is a real norm within society that it's really normal to spend all your time watching TV series and films and sport, for example, but it's a bit taboo to be always playing video games. It's like, stop wasting your time. It's like, well, you're just watching 3 hours of American football in a single day. Like, how is that not wasting your time versus what I'm doing? And so I think that it's very easy to judge people on how they spend their free time, and there are pressures with stuff like university and doing a job or doing stuff like this and having a family and things. There's always pressures in life, but I'm a strong believer that wherever you are in life, you need those few hours in a day or a few hours in a week where you have your own time where you do your own thing, and if games are that own thing and the thing you do in your own time, then absolutely that should be your thing. Like there's definitely a taboo about it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the big problem people come up against, especially with their parents, is like, well, why are you spending all your time in the evening doing this? And then you say, well, you're spending your time watching television. What's the difference? Like,
there is no difference.
If anything, I'm more engaged because I'm actively doing something within it, not just passively absorbing.
Exactly.
So yeah, and I'm like learning skills and stuff. There are so many positive benefits from games, regardless. But in terms of like eras in my life when I wasn't playing as many games, I think generally before I started listening to podcasts and when I went to university, I had less time because my school was like we both went to the same school, and there was like you basically lived at the school. Like there was no time to really do anything
like insane
outside.
Amounts of work and school on Saturdays, and
exactly,
which probably sounds insane to many people listening. But
the other day, someone reminded me that I used to go to school on Saturdays, and I was just like, "What the fuck? What was I doing?"
Yeah, because I'd end up doing homework on Sundays, so that's all 7 days of the week taken up by something, and it was just it was hard to fit in gaming time.
Exactly, especially towards the end. And I think both of us, during the early kind of years at school, we were playing Pokemon still quite a lot. And then I think, you and our friend Ali T fell off, and I was still doing that. But I wasn't really playing anything else aside from Pokemon. I was, as many people are these days, a mono gamer. That was the kind of one thing I did. And I'd pick up your Mario Galaxies here and there and stuff like that. But I wasn't super engaged with games in the same way that I am now. And I think it was mainly because of RFN, and every time they were on a podcast, they did one every week, and they would talk about a new game that they were playing, and they were talking about how they'd finished all these games. And I was like, man, I really want to be able to do that. I want to have that accomplishment of like not only playing a lot of games and going through them and finishing them, but like having that broader knowledge and being able to talk about them. And that's when I started really getting into the wider, like following the industry and listening to stuff and reading stuff. And it just opened up a whole lot more to me than it was before. I feel like you were similar at that time when you were at university, because you played Mario Kart a ton with people, and you did like Guitar Hero, but it wasn't the same like being deep into games.
There were a lot of times in early university when I was like going to different clubs and things, and that took up a lot of time. And then the time that I spent with sort of like my housemates it was all about Guitar Hero, multiplayer stuff like Mario Kart, Mario Party, list goes on with multiplayer games. But then it wasn't until like my final years of uni when I was like, I was living more on my own, like with my girlfriend, and I had more time to myself to actually construct my gaming sessions better. And I actually went back to like old games, stuff like Phantom Hourglass and Skyward Sword, and I was like, I'm going to beat these games. Like I am going to beat these games and think about them more constructively and try and move myself away from multiplayer games and treat games more like novels. Like, I mean, that's what ultimately what we do a lot with this podcast. So I was already
it's kind of a book club almost.
Exactly. And that was sort of the year or two before the podcast started. So I was already broadly in a mindset of actually beating games before we'd started the podcast. And then that was sort of led together. But yeah, like there were long periods throughout school and university where I'd play very little games, and the games I did play, it was often multiplayer. And there was often multiplayer, like we've said, for different reasons. When I was growing up, it was more fun to play multiplayer. And then as I was older, it was like I only had a chance to play multiplayer because I wouldn't have enough time by myself to do other stuff. But yeah, time constraints ebb and flow over time. And so now I'm at the stage where I've got lots of time that I spend playing games, completing them, and it's a good place.
Yeah, for sure. It was also, I used to come home from school because like we come home at fucking 9 o'clock in the evening. That's correct. I came home at 9 p.m. And I have like an hour or so before bed. And instead of playing games, what I'd do is I'd turn on YouTube and I would watch Nintendo Capri Sun play Majora's Mask or Final Fantasy X or whatever. I was very into the Let's Play scene, as our emailer mentions.
It's like a very casual way of engaging in games without like turning on a game like Zelda, Majora's Mask, and playing through it. It's not that relaxing. Like, you really have to think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And watching a Let's Play is far more relaxing, but still gives you an opportunity to engage with a video game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was also during the era where YouTube only allowed 10-minute videos. So it's such like bite size.
Oh, God. So it was in like 30 million parts.
Right, but like I think his Majora's Mask LP had already been completed. I was just going through it because I was such a big fan of his, and I wanted to just watch through all the Zelda stuff that he had done because I was into Zelda, but at that point I'd only really played, I guess, Twilight Princess and Phantom Hourglass, and some Wind Waker with you. Like I hadn't played a huge amount of other Zelda games, Ocarina obviously, but yeah, so Majora was one of those like blank spots in my mind, so I wanted to see what the game was and what it was about, and I loved Nintendo Capri Sun, so I just watched a bunch of him, and sometimes my dad would be like, right, I need to go to bed, I'm going to turn off the internet. So what I would do, it was back when YouTube would buffer properly, not how it does these days, or it does it while you watch it. You could buffer a whole video, so I'd buffer like 6 Majora's Mask parts and just have them before I went to bed. So I just watched through like an hour of Majora's Mask and stay up later.
Before we'd wake up again the next day at like 6:30, ready for another day of school, for God's sake. Oh,
absolutely.
Insane.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, Kevin,
there you go.
Nice email. And yeah, just remember, if people are saying, why are you doing all that time playing video games, I'm sure they're spending, if not equal or if not more time, doing something else that you could define as not massively constructive either. And it's just...
Yeah. I mean, there are other things in my life that I definitely could be more constructive with, like playing guitar and like being creative and video making and learning skills like editing and stuff like that. But sometimes when you are in a certain place, like the middle of the evening, and it's like you're not going to be doing anything in that time anyway. It's not any different from anything else. Exactly.
But yeah, good email. Please send in more emails. We always need more, as we always say. We put out a big shout out last time. That shout out remains. We still need more. So please email ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We would really appreciate it.
And in order to push people even more so, because we are doing our Final Fantasy VI Backlog Club next episode, if those emails are Final Fantasy VI related, you are much more likely for us to talk about them, because that's what we're going to be talking about next time. So please
give us your thoughts on Final Fantasy VI, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's all we've got time for the second segment. Join us after this quick musical interlude in the third segment.
Alright everyone, welcome back to the third and final part of the show. It's time for some quizzing, everyone. It's time to get deep into the knowledge pool, go for a swim, see if we can pluck anything out of that brain of Bally's over there.
I think my knowledge pool of Nontendo is more a paddling pool, but we can rather than a swimming pool, but we can try it out at least.
We'll see. This is going to be interesting. It was very hard to find a good balance here between trying to make questions hard and trying to make them reasonable. It's more difficult to come up with questions than you might imagine, because I was like, I'll just shit these out, and some of them I did, but others I was like, okay, I got to.
And you reread through all of them, and you're like, Barry's not going to get any of these.
Well, yeah,
I need to tamper with some of these.
Yeah, so the way this quiz is going to be structured, this is called the Nontendo Quiz, and you should all play along at home as well. If I feel like there's lots of people who listen to our show who are probably more similar to you than me, Bally, and they know a lot about Nintendo, but maybe don't know a huge amount about other stuff in the games industry.
They're on my
it'd be
side.
fun to it'd be fun to play along with this and see if you can get some questions correct, and then be proud when you get everything right. Because that's always good, and then boast about it on our Discord and shame Bally for beating him. Basically, that would be a fun thing to do. So we're going to have 15 multiple choice questions to start off, and every one of these that Bally gets correct will earn him a life, and those lives will be used in the second half which is basically going to be Jeopardy, which is a game that a lot of our British or non-American listeners will not really know. But the only reason I know about it is because Nick did a thing back in the day called the Gamer Game, where he did a Jeopardy board, and it was with me and Ferris and Nagi and all these other people, and we had a quiz basically. So Jeopardy is a game where you have this board with a bunch of questions on it, but you basically give the answer, and then the person has to say the question. So it's like, this is the capital of France, and the question would be, what is Paris, for example.
Paris? Right,
so
right.
you have to say what the answer or the question is, I guess. It's always a what is question, I guess.
Right.
And so we have 5 categories for that, and there are 5 questions in each category, from 100 to 500, and each of them is more difficult, essentially, depending on what the number is going up the way. And you can pick any question at any time. You could be like, oh, I want the 300 of this category now. You don't have to go in order. But with your lives, Bally, you can say, okay, I'm going to use my life on this question to clear it off the board and not answer it, essentially.
Right.
And we'll see if you can clear the board. That's the goal here. So there's 25 questions on the board.
Okay.
So this sounds like a lot. Don't worry, it'll all work. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Hopefully it's enjoyable to listen to. It was fun to make, so here we go. All right, let's kick things off.
Less fun to execute than make.
Yes, so let's kick things off with the multiple choice with our first question. The first question is, which of these is the name of the main character of the Hitman series? Is it A, Agent 42, B, Agent 47, or C, Agent 49?
It's got a ring to it. I'm going to go with Agent 49.
Are you sure that is your final answer, C, Agent 49?
Yes.
That is incorrect.
Oh,
the correct
God.
answer is Agent 47.
47. Okay, two was my backup there, so 7 was my least, was the bottom of the list there. So
Okay.
it's a good start.
Keep in mind, this was one of the easier questions I thought on the list. Okay.
It is something I should know, but Hitman's one of those things that I've definitely turned a blind eye to when it comes to like things I'm following. So
yeah, Hitman's a series that I have seen and followed from the outside for a long time. Obviously, Giant Bomb did a lot with it in 2016, so I was very familiar with Hitman at that point.
Right, let's go.
Next question. Which of these studios is responsible for creating Infamous and Sly Cooper? Is it A, Insomniac, B, Sucker Punch, or C, Gorilla?
God, they all sound like they could be right. That's the problem. I think it's Sucker Punch.
And that is your final answer, B, Sucker Punch.
Yes.
You are correct.
Yes.
Sucker Punch made Infamous and Sly Cooper. Sucker Punch and Insomniac, I think, are two studios that people get mixed up quite a bit.
Right.
Because Sly Cooper and Ratchet and Clank have a similar feel to them, you know? Like, they're both kind of anthropomorphic, animal, platformy style games.
So Insomniac work on Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, and they're working on this new Spider-Man game, and they made Spyro
Who
back
did
in
Jack
the day.
and Daxter?
That's Naughty Dog.
Right, of course. Yep.
Yeah,
of course.
So that's another one that people get mixed up, I guess, is like the
Right.
Sony kind of PS2 generation games. So.
Right.
Well done, you got it. Nice work.
50-50.
Yeah. So question number 3: who is the creative mind behind Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian? Now, again, some Japanese names here, Bally. Is it A, Fumito Ueda? Is it B, Shigesato Itoi? Or is it C, Genyo Takeda?
So all 3 of these people are definitely real people.
Yes, they're all real people. Yeah. I can read them again.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so A, Fumito Ueda. B, Shigesato Itoi. And C, Genyo Takeda.
I'm going to go A.
A, Fumito Ueda is your final
Yes.
answer. That is correct.
Yes.
Well done, Bally. Shigesato Itoi is, of course, the creator of Earthbound.
Right,
series.
okay, yep.
And Genyo Takeda is a Nintendo hardware guy who's recently been honored, I think, at the DICE Awards.
Okay, I was nowhere near knowing that. I think I knew somewhere in my mind the toy was definitely Earthbound. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Good. So you got 2 lives so far.
Here we go.
How you feeling? Feeling all right?
This is hard, but it's a good
Okay.
level of hard. It's not complete out of my grasp. It's just about there.
Good. All right. So question number 4. Which of these is not a BioWare series? Is it A, Mass Effect, B. Knights of the Old Republic, or C. Divinity Original Sin? So you're looking for the one that is not a BioWare series.
Let's have those three options again.
Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic, which I guess the full name is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic,
Yeah.
and C. Divinity Original Sin.
Can I ask the audience?
There is no audience around us. If there were, I would give
they're
you the
listening to
opportunity.
this delayed, so
Exactly.
I guess. It feels weird that whoever was behind Knights of the Old Republic would also be for these other two games, which I believe are far more modern than that game. So I'm gonna probably go with B, Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay, that's your final answer, Knights of the Old Republic?
Probably wrong, but here we go.
That is incorrect.
Yeah, okay.
BioWare made... because Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is kind of an old-style RPG similar to Mass Effect.
Right,
the correct
okay.
answer is Divinity Original Sin, which is a CRPG that came out recently and is not made by BioWare.
A CRPG?
CRPG is like a different style of isometric computer RPG, like we talked about with Ultima before in the questions. I don't know if Ultima is a CRPG in that similar vein.
Isometric. So like a Mario RPG on Super Nintendo?
I mean, not like that, because Super Mario RPG has a Japanese RPG battle system,
Right.
whereas these are... Honestly, I don't really know myself. I actually made a thread on Reset Era recently, which was, I want to get into CRPGs, tell me the best ones to get into it. And people recommended this game, Shadowrun Dragonfall, which I'm actually playing right now on PC. And its combat is very XCOM style, kind of Fire Emblem-y. So it's a lot of like... A lot of your stats and stuff link into your dialogue choices as much as they do into your abilities and stuff like that.
Right.
So you're able to like manipulate people and stuff like that and steer conversation depending on your abilities. And so that's the kind of the nature of the CRPG. And Mass Effect is kind of in that vein, but not really. It's more of a Western. Look, RPGs have a lot of different nuances to them. So
Okay.
anyway.
How am I doing?
I don't... Well, there you go. So you have 2 points still, and we're on question 5. So question 5. Which of these is not an Overwatch character? Is it A, Lucio, B, Elise, or C, Anna? Overwatch is one of those games that weirdly I knew all the characters' names before I played the game because I just absorbed it all.
Lucio, Elise, and Anna.
Yes, those are your 3 options. It's tough because I've made them not things like Doomfist or Widowmaker, which are not real names, but like sub-names.
Lucio, Elise, and Anna. I think Elise. B.
Is that your final answer? B,
Yes.
Elise. You are correct. That is a name I pulled out my ass. that is not a real Overwatch character. Lucio is he's a healer. I think Lucio and Anna are both actually healers, I should say. And Elise is just a character that I made up out of nowhere. But I chose Anna specifically because it sounds like just a normal person's name, and I wanted it to fit in a bit more here. So even though it's spelled with 1 N and not 2 N's. So good job. You have got another life. Congratulations, Bally. How are you feeling now? 5 questions in? Doing all right?
3 out of 5. I'm very happy with 3 out of 5. Yeah. Let's keep it rolling.
Okay. Number 6. Ezio starred in 3 Assassin's Creed games, Assassin's Creed 2 and 2 others. What were the 2 others? Is it A, Brotherhood and Revelations, B, Rogue and Liberation, or C, Syndicate and Unity? Assassin's Creed, one of those properties that you have had some familiarity with,
Yes.
but...
So have the 3 options again.
It is A, Brotherhood and Revelations, B, Rogue and Liberation, C, Syndicate and Unity.
I'm going to go with A.
A, Brotherhood and Revelations. That is your final answer?
Yes.
That is correct.
Oh,
well done. After Assassin's Creed 2, they released Brotherhood, which continues to star Ezio, and then they released another one to make it an Ezio trilogy, basically, before Assassin's Creed 3 even came out.
Yeah, the other 4 sounded way too recent. Like Syndicate's the
Yes.
London one, right?
Syndicate is the London one, Unity is the France one. Rogue is the one they released the same year as Unity, but on the old platforms. There was a pirate basically similar to Black Flag, but it was on 360 and PS3 only. And Liberation is the Vita game, which only came out there. And then I think came out on other platforms later. All right, next up, question 7. Which of these is not a Bethesda property? Is it A, Dishonored, B, Prey, or C, Deus Ex?
Oh, God, you went for some really niche, not niche Bethesda games, but like just ones I'm not aware of.
They're all in the same genre, the immersive sim, the kind of first-person, like kind of stealth and systems-driven games. As you watch that Mark Brown video recently, he talks a lot about systems-driven games.
Systems-driven games. Let's hear those three again.
So that is Dishonored, Prey, and Deus Ex.
I think it's B, Prey.
And that is your final answer,
yes.
Prey? That is incorrect. Dishonored and Prey are both Bethesda games. Deus Ex is not. It's an Eidos game, but Square Enix obviously owns Eidos, and the recent Deus Ex didn't do very well, unfortunately. So,
when did that come out?
Well, they've had two more modern Deus Ex games. One came out, I think, in 2016, which was Mankind Divided, and then there was Human Revolution, which came out before that in 2012 or something, 2011. So. Yeah, there you go. Deus Ex is the correct answer. Question 8. Middle-earth: Shadow of War is published by which company? A. Activision. B. Warner Brothers. C. Take-Two. All these big, hungry, loot box-loving publishers.
Activision, Warner Brothers, and Take-Two.
Take-Two, yeah.
All these microtransaction people, you're saying?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I'm going to go with Warner Brothers.
That is your final answer?
Yes.
That is correct. Warner Brothers indeed publishes the Middle-earth games. Jim Sterling rails on them as much as any other company. Activision don't really have that many games they publish these days. It's like they have a couple like Skylanders, obviously, which is kind of dead at this point. Like, Activision is the kind of company that just runs things into the ground, like Guitar Hero and all that stuff, and then just...
it's interesting, because I thought Warner Brothers were well clearer of anything Lord of the Rings related, but I guess it's not strictly Lord of the Rings related.
No.
It's
it is, but it's also...
It is, yeah.
So question number 9. Before it was rebranded... Here we go. This is one question that is a stupid nerd thing that I don't know that you'll know anything about. But anyway, before it was rebranded and reworked to be Final Fantasy 15, this game was known by another name. Is it A, Final Fantasy Dissidia? Is it B, Final Fantasy Type 0? Or is it C, Final Fantasy Versus 13? There's a very famous moment in video game history because this game was known for many, many years, and then Square Enix was like, oh no, now it's Final Fantasy 15. And they revealed it at E3 and changed the name then and there.
Let's hear those three names one more time.
Final Fantasy Dissidia, Final Fantasy Type 0, and Final Fantasy Versus 13.
I'm going to go with C, Versus 13.
And that is your final answer?
Yes.
That is correct. Well done, Bally.
I've just heard Versus 13 a lot, so those other two names just sounded a bit whack.
Yeah, well, they are a little bit. Well, there's actually a Final Fantasy game that just came out called Dissidia NT, which is another one of those in the Dissidia series, which is like a third-person, like, big fighting style game. Versus 13 was the name of this game that had been around for years. It was part of their initiative called Fabula Nova Crystallis, which was they had these three games that they were going to all like bind together. One of them was Final Fantasy 13, one of them was Type 0, and one of them was Versus 13. And, you know, these trailers had been back in the day for years and years, and it's like literally been a decade since they did it. And then I think it was E3 2013 where they re-revealed Final Fantasy Versus 13 and then changed the name. Like literally on the screen, the logo shifts from Versus 13 into 15, and people are like blown away. So it's very crazy. So cool. Well done. Got that one correct. Next up, question 10. Which of these Mega Man sub-series were third-person 3D action adventure games? Is it A, Mega Man Legends, B, Mega Man Zero, or C, Mega Man Battle Network?
Say the question again. Which one are third-person action games? Yeah,
so which one of these are third-person 3D action adventure games?
So only one of these is a third-person action game?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Pretty sure Battle Network is like an RPG.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with Zero. B, please.
B is your final answer. Mega Man Zero. That is incorrect. Mega Man Legends is the third-person 3D action adventure game.
See, I just assumed Legends was some sort of
re-release or remake.
Re-release of like a group of games.
So Mega Man Legacy Collection is actually the re-release collection.
Right.
It's actually coming out on Switch later this year, which I'm looking forward to because they're going to put both of those together and have every original Mega Man game. You can buy it in one package.
But you don't have a D-pad.
I know, but I've played Celeste for 30 hours. I think I'm going to be all right with Mega Man. I hope anyway. Mega Man Legends. So Mega Man Legends 3 was initially going to be a 3DS game. If you remember back in the day, they had a demo planned for the eShop for Mega Man Legends 3, and they fell through it with it ultimately, and it got cancelled. So no one has ever seen, the next Mega Man Legends game. Maybe Capcom will go back to it.
And there's Battle Network and RPG.
I believe so, yeah. I think they're like weird Pokemon GBA games or whatever, stuff like that. So, question 11. Who was the lead architect behind the design of the PlayStation 4? Is it A, Shuhei Yoshida, B, Mark Cerny, or C, Ken Kutaragi? During the PlayStation 4 reveal event, they came out on stage and discussed this. So,
I'm going to go Shuhei.
Okay. That is your final answer?
Yes.
Shuhei Yoshida. That is incorrect. Shuhei Yoshida is president of Sony Worldwide Studios. He deals with a lot of software stuff and their first parties. Mark Cerny is the lead architect behind the PlayStation 4. Mark Cerny, also the...
is he still there?
Yes, he is. He still works on stuff. He, in fact, is the person who led the team on Knack and Knack 2. So you can blame Mark Cerny for our Lord and Savior Knack. And Ken Kutaragi is an old Sony executive who used to run Sony before... what's his name? No, I'm blanking. Who's just about to retire? Kaz Hirai is now their CEO. And Kaz Hirai used to be the head of Sony Entertainment, but... Anyway, that's a tough one. It's more niche knowledge that you need to know. But there you go, Mark Cerny, architect, very smart man, very intimidating man.
How many questions are we on now, and how am I doing?
So we're question 12. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions correct.
Okay.
So just around 50%. Question 12. Which of these Matrix characters has not been used as a code name for PlayStation hardware?
Jeez, I've only seen the Matrix like once.
Okay. Is it A, Neo, B, Morpheus, or C, Trinity? Which of these has not been used as a code name for PlayStation hardware?
Oh, I think it's Trinity. C.
Are you sure?
Yes.
That is correct. Neo was, of course, the codename for the PlayStation 4 Pro. Morpheus was the codename for PlayStation VR. Trinity has yet to be used. A lot of people around the internet have been speculating that Sony has another handheld in development, and that's going to be codenamed Trinity.
Oh my god, imagine if Sony do a handheld.
Yeah, after the Vita and its failure, I don't think it's likely, but anyway, there you go. Well done. It's an interesting one that it's something about hardware and code names is just it's this weird area of like
Revolution.
Dolphin, Cafe for Wii U. Yeah. Question 13. What was the original Xbox's controller affectionately nicknamed? Is it A, the Chub, B, the Duke, or C, the Nuke?
Oh my god.
The Xbox controller known for being a giant piece of crap, and people nicknamed it accordingly.
Chub, Nuke, or Duke?
Yeah.
Nuke and Duke don't really feel like they relate to size, so I'm going to go Chub.
And that's your final answer? The
Final
Chub?
answer, A, Chub.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is the Duke.
Duke.
People talking about it more recently because apparently they're re-releasing the Duke as a controller you can now use with Xbox One and PC.
What?
For whatever reason, just for nostalgia's sake, I guess.
The original Xbox controller.
Yeah, the Duke is coming back
God.
out. So, yeah, weird. I don't know why people would want to play on that, but hey, you have the option now. All right, question 14. Before they made No Man's Sky, Hello Games were best known for which series? Is it A, Joe Danger, B, Trials, or C, Riptide? I've actually played one of these games. I live streamed it, so.
I'll go with Trials then.
Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have told you that. B is the wrong answer. The correct answer is Joe Danger, which is it's a weird type of game. It's like It is similar to Trials in the sense that you're going on this course and you're like jumping over tricks and stuff. And that's why I put them both in here, because they are similar styles of games.
Right.
But it's under the artifice of you're basically making a movie and you're doing all these stunts and they're being recorded. Basically, it's kind of a neat concept, but a very unknown game that normally people like. People know Hello Games because of No Man's Sky, for better or worse. At this point, not many people know what they worked on before, and it is Joe Danger. Question 15, the final game before we move on to the Jeopardy round. Which of these not Zelda games has the highest average score on Metacritic? Is it A, Okami, B, Darksiders, or C, Beyond Good and Evil?
Wow, this is a tough one. Darksiders counts as like a Zelda clone. Okay.
It is. So I played Darksiders last year, talked about it on the show.
Oh, of course. I'm getting confused with Dark Souls, which of course...
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
right.
Dark Souls, it does get compared to Zelda more compared to like the
yeah.
original Zelda games more than anything. But
I don't think it's Darksiders. I don't think it's Okami. And everyone absolutely loves Beyond Good and Evil. So I'm going to go with Beyond Good and Evil, C.
That is your final answer, Beyond Good and Evil?
Yes.
That is incorrect.
Oh, what?
Okami. Okami has a 93 Metacritic.
93?
Yes.
What is Beyond Good and Evil?
I believe it's 83, and Darksiders is... Or maybe Beyond Good and Evil is 85, and Darksiders is 83, or something along those lines.
Right,
but they're both like mid-80s, whereas Okami is over 90.
Wow,
yeah, people fucking love Okami. It's a game we should both really play at some point.
Yeah.
Gotta
they
get
need to
it.
re-release it on Switch. Because they did that HD re-release and it didn't come to Switch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's hopefully will come this year. Capcom, when they get their freaking ideas together, will hopefully do that.
Everyone's like, oh, you can't port everything to Switch. It's like, come on, they can port a Wii game to the Switch.
Yeah, exactly. It was a PS2 game originally. Of course they can port it to Switch. God damn it. So you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points going into the Jeopardy round. So that's about 50%, which is
Just
pretty good.
under.
Yeah, so there we go. So now we're going to move into our categories, and we have 5 categories, one of which is a Nintendo category, just to throw you a bone there, Bally. But you have 7 lives with which to burn through in case you need them.
Right.
So our categories are Play That Station, which is Sony PlayStation questions, What's in the Xbox, To PC or Not To PC, Late to the Third Party, and The End Zone. So
nice.
We have 100 to 500 questions for each of these.
5 levels of questions.
Yep. Where do you want to start here, Bally? Give me a place on the board to start.
Let's go for the easiest PlayStation one to start. Let's go.
The easiest PlayStation one. All right.
Play That Station.
For 100, Play That Station. This is the name of the main character in God of War.
What is Kratos?
That is correct.
Ah.
Well done, Bally. 100 points. Getting you
that
on the
was
board.
kind of... I had to rack my brains even for that.
The thing that I realized when I was making this quiz is, oh god, all these questions are about names of things, which is literally Bally's worst thing possible.
This is going to be hard. I'm going to butcher a lot of names here.
I did try and make the starter questions like gimmies almost, so hopefully you'll be able to get through
Let's go to second level, late to the third party.
Set 200 for late to the third party. All right. Here it is. For the past couple of years, Ubisoft has been trying to stave off a hostile takeover from this company. It's been very heavily discussed. Yves Guillemot's been like, we don't want this to happen.
Ubisoft. Who's bigger than Ubisoft?
They've talked about it a lot in the news these last couple of years.
My options I'm feeling are EA, Blizzard, and Activision.
Okay.
I'm feeling EA. Let's go for EA.
Correct answer is Vivendi.
Okay, I was never going to get that.
So you'll lose a point there. I don't know how we want to do it, if we want to make it so that you burn a life on that one, or if we just want to like you want to say like, okay, I want to skip this question.
I either take the hit or burn a life. How about that?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So you take
I'll
the
burn
hit
a
there.
life because I don't want to lose my 100 points.
Oh, okay, all right.
So,
you actually you would lose 200 points because depending on the severity of the question, you lose that amount.
Do I go to negative or do I go to 0?
Yes, you do go to negative.
Okay,
so you would
to
be
avoid going to
-100.
minus 100, I'm going to burn a life. So I'm now down to 6 lives.
Yes.
and I'll keep my 100 points. Okay.
Yeah. So where are we going next?
Let's build up some simple stuff. Let's do the easiest Nintendo one.
All right, let's go. For
I better
100,
get this.
the end zone. This is the number of tracks we expect to get when a new Mario Kart game is released.
So this is
total number of tracks.
Yeah, this is the number of tracks that are in games like Mario Kart 8, 7, Wii.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 4, 8, 12, 16 times 2 is 32.
That is correct. What is 32? Right. Another 100 points on the board, Bally.
Yeah, rolling in it. 200.
Yep.
Right, let's go for the second hardest, not the second hardest, the second easiest Xbox.
Xbox. For 200, what's in the Xbox? This AI character from the Halo series also lent their name to Microsoft's own virtual AI assistant.
Oh, God. I know that.
I have Google Assistant. You've got Siri, I guess. But who do Microsoft have?
It's like... It's something Andromeda. So it's like a
that's the name of Mass Effect, Andromeda.
No, but...
It's one of those when you see it and hear it, you're going to kick yourself, basically.
Yeah, I know I am. Let's burn a life. I don't want to lose any points.
Okay. Well, the correct answer is Cortana.
The second you're about to press it, I was like, it's going to be Cortana.
Wait, so you had that in your mind and you didn't say it?
Literally, the name came to me just as you were about to press the button.
No, Bally!
No! Damn it. I just remember them talking about it on Giant Bomb. Never mind.
That's gutting. All right.
We've got 5 lives left. Here we go. Right, let's...
Yes.
Let's go for the hardest Nintendo one.
The hardest, so 500.
Yeah, the hardest. I want to gamble on getting a lot of points.
This was the final Nintendo game published on NES.
I think I know this. Wario's Woods.
That is correct.
Yes!
Wow, well done, Valley. Good job. Nice. I was wondering whether you'd know that one.
It was a gamble, but I was like...
I was wondering whether to put that in the 300 or the 400 slot, and I'm like, this is actually quite tough, so put it up there. So there you go. Nice. Right. 500 points on the board. Up to 700 now. Where do we go next on the board?
Let's go for the second hardest PlayStation. I'm on a roll.
Oh boy, so 400. PlayStation for 400.
Here we go.
Before Bloodborne, PlayStation 3 was the home to this other exclusive From Software game.
I get From Software and Neversoft muddled in my mind.
Really? Okay. Yeah, Guitar Hero and Dark Souls are really the same.
I'm not going to get this. I don't think I'm going to have to spend a life. I think I'm down to 4 lives.
Yeah, you will spend a life there. All right. So the correct answer is Demon Souls. What is Demon Souls? Which is the first Souls game. It was originally PlayStation 3 exclusive. Sony didn't lock it down. Then Bandai Namco published Dark Souls, and Sony were like, "Oh shit!"
So the order was Demon Souls and then Dark Souls.
Yes.
Dark Souls was PS2 or PS3.
PS3. These are all PS3.
These are all PS3.
Onwards. Yeah.
So wait, sorry. Dark Souls would have been wrong because
it was multi-platform. It was on 360 as well as PS3.
Got you. Let's go for the easiest PC one.
Easiest PC? All right. Start easy on the PC. This PC shooter made headlines in 2017 when it broke the record for peak number of concurrent players on Steam. Remember, this should be a gimme, so...
Yeah, I know, right? This is
just
weird.
To put that out there.
I mean, there's one obvious one in my head, but I thought they had a separate purchasing store, but coming to think of it, I don't think they do. I'm going to go with Overwatch.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
See, I was just not thinking of that as a shooter, but yeah, okay.
It is a shooter. Of course it's a shooter. That's the game. You shoot people. There are 100 people on an island. You've got to shoot them.
Do Blizzard have some separate store?
They do, yes. They have Battle.net, which is their own platform.
That's
so
why
they do
I
not
should
put
have
things on
steered
Steam.
away from Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
No,
so
fair
lose
enough.
100 points there, down
Silly
to 600,
mistake.
unfortunately.
PUBG,
but at least
of
it was
course.
a low one. At least it was a low one.
Yeah, I'll take the hit because it's not many points. Let's go for easiest Xbox. Let's rally up.
Easiest Xbox. All right, let's go.
Points.
This company was bought by Microsoft in 2002, having previously been owned by Nintendo. If there was ever a gimme, it's this one.
I'm struggling.
Are you kidding me right now?
Oh, right. No, Rare.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Okay,
What is
go on.
rare is the correct answer. Okay, I was going to say, if you got that one wrong, something is seriously problematic.
All right, let's do
here.
the easiest third party.
Okay, for 100, late to the third party. Despite the fact that we all know they aren't really a video game company anymore, Konami still develops and publishes this annual football game series.
Right, Pez.
What is the full title?
Pro Evolution Soccer.
That is correct.
There you go.
Another
Right,
100
okay.
points. All right, so all the
let-
easy questions out of the way now, Bal. It's only going upwards from here.
Yeah, let's go for the 200 PC.
Okay. This company, who collaborated with Nintendo on the Switch, is the market leader in PC graphics card sales.
Nvidia.
That is correct.
Phew. Right.
Good job,
Getting
Bal.
there.
Nice. Getting there.
These questions are
Right.
good level. I'm impressed. They're not too hard, not too
Okay.
easy. They're somewhere in the middle. Right,
Yep.
let's go. While we're racking in the points, let's go for the second hardest Nintendo.
Okay. Here
Rally
we go.
up.
This
That's
is
the second
the two.
easiest, but fine.
Oh, sorry. God damn it. This is the 247th Pokemon
know
in the
this.
Pokedex. Do you? Okay.
It's Pupitar.
You're correct.
Yes.
I had a Pupitar called 247 that I used because it was the 247th Pokemon.
So
in the
yeah, for
Pokedex.
people who don't know, 247 is like this number that goes back a long way with us. If you're curious about what it comes from, then do send us an email. We'll happily explain it again. But we have definitely explained it on the show before. Yeah.
Not many
Right.
people, when you ask them blank question like what's the 247th Pokemon, will be able to say it's Pupitar with confidence.
Okay, good question. Let's go for that 200 PlayStation is sticking out to me.
200. All right. For Play That Station. This Capcom fighting game was funded by Sony to become a PS4 and PC exclusive.
I mean, Capcom fighting game, like, I guess it's Street Fighter. I'll go with Street Fighter.
Which Street Fighter?
Oh, God. I'm going to say 5.
Okay. That is correct.
Oh,
that is Street
God.
Fighter 5. Well done, Bally. Made it.
Thank you.
Yeah, people were kind of confused when Street Fighter 5 was announced as not coming to Xbox because Sony had paid for it to only be on PS4 and of course PC because PC is no one cares about it.
Can we say I won 1,400 points with 4 lives left?
Yes, that is
Right.
what you have right now. So doing all right.
Let's go for the second hardest third party. Late to the third party. We need to say these names more. They're great.
Late to the third party for 400. This game, released on GameCube in 2002, marked the first time Square Enix had released a Final Fantasy game on a Nintendo console since Final Fantasy VI in 1994.
This is that weird one with online in the name. It's Final Fantasy. It might just be called Final Fantasy Online.
That your final answer?
Yes.
Your Final Fantasy answer?
Right.
That is incorrect.
Oh.
The correct answer is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Yeah. What game am I thinking of?
Final Fantasy XIV was online. I don't know what game you're thinking
There's like
of.
a game that's called Final Fantasy
Fantasy Star. Fantasy Star Online.
Star Online. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's nothing
my
to do with
brain
Final
is
Fantasy.
just
Yeah.
Scrambled eggs. Can I spend a life to avoid?
Well, see, here's the thing. You need to tell me you were spending a life before
Fair
you
enough.
do that, because
Makes
otherwise,
sense. I spend a life and don't give an answer.
Yes, basically.
Right, I gave a life and gambled. I gave an answer and gambled.
You gave an
Right,
answer, so
fair
you're
enough.
down to 1,000.
Yeah, I'm thinking
All right.
Fantasy Star Online. So
Yeah,
that's
Fantasy
a
Star
complete
Online.
Screw up in my head. Right, let's go for the hardest PC one.
That is to PC or not to PC for 500. Here we
PC
go.
or not.
Larian Studios found success on Kickstarter in 2013 when they funded this revival CRPG. There you go. There's a term coming back again.
CRPG. Well, seeing as I really struggle to name any CRPG. Larian Studios found success on 2013 when they funded this revival. Funded. It's hard to say whether this game has actually come out yet or not. I'd imagine it has, seeing as that was like 5 years ago.
I can tell you that it has, yes.
Okay, so we're talking about a CRPG that was funded on Kickstarter. I'm going to spend a life. I don't think I'm going to get this.
Okay, so you're down to 3 lives now, Bally.
3 lives.
The correct answer, which was part of the multiple choice section, is Divinity Original Sin.
I was never going to get that.
No, I know. I know. That's why it was the hardest PC question.
Fair enough.
Because it's
let's go.
it's the furthest out of your wheelhouse possible.
Right. Let's go for 300 PlayStation.
300.
Play that station.
Play that station. In a now infamous video released during E3 2013, Shuhei Yoshida handed this executive a PS4 game to show how you shared games on the new console. This was the big thing of that year of dunking on Xbox because...
yeah, it was like, oh, you want to play this game? Then you can just do this.
Yeah. Who was the person that Shuhei Yoshida handed the PS4 game to?
Oh, who's the person? I thought it was the game.
Yeah, this executive.
Oh, God. It was probably that guy we just talked about before who designed the PS4, whose name I've forgotten. But I will... I'm not going to pull a good name out of the hat, so I'm going to spend a life and defend my points.
All right, well, you're down to 2 lives, Bally. It's getting scary here. The correct answer is Adam Boyes.
Oh, Adam Boyes.
Who now works for...
Damn, I know that.
Yeah.
Boyes. God.
Yeah, so there you go. We have it's like 8, 9 questions left. So
2
we've got
lives.
2 lives.
Oh, God.
It's getting risky. There's some high-level questions here.
Yeah.
It's getting tough.
Okay, right. Late to the third party, 300.
300. Late to the third party. This studio, founded by Dave Lang. We're going from Adam Boyes to Dave Lang. Just founded by Dave Lang. Ported Skyrim to Switch in late 2017.
What is Iron Galaxy?
That is correct.
Thank
well
God.
done, Bally.
Thank you. Right.
It's one of those names that I'm like, you know Dave Lang, but do you know the name of the studio?
They also worked on that Batman Arkham game, didn't they?
They did, yeah, the Arkham Knight, which was not good. That was a bad port. I remember Dave Lang being on the Giant Bombcast after that and them asking him a little bit about it. Him being like, I'm not talking about that. Can't discuss that. So
I don't want to talk about it. Let's go for 300, the End Zone.
The End Zone for 300. This version of the GameCube, only ever released in Japan, allowed you to play DVDs.
Oh, God, what's it called?
This was another one I was considering for the last question.
It's I should get it for saying this. It's the Panasonic something. It's the GameCube Panasonic or the Panasonic GameCube.
I'm going to give it to you because it is tough.
Okay.
It is the Panasonic Q.
Right,
Is the correct
I appreciate
answer.
that. I
but
appreciate
you
that.
you had it in there. I knew
it was there.
In your brain.
It was there.
Yeah,
I saw one when I was in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
there was
crazy.
one in Super Potato.
Was it expensive?
It was quite expensive, yeah. I don't know.
That's one of those things I might actually, if I was there in Japan and saw it, I might just go and buy it right then and there.
I was just like, I've got a GameCube and I've got a DVD player.
I know, but like that's not what it's about for me. For me, it's like this is
a
a weird fucking thing that happened that I would like to have, just because it's strange.
Right, 1,600 points. Let's just try and get to 2,000 with another The End Zone, the second hardest, The End Zone, 400
For 400. If Nintendo had obtained the license for this character, Mario may never have been created.
God. They went after a character.
Mhm.
When was Mario created? Mario was created in Donkey Kong.
Yeah, technically Donkey Kong.
Who did they want instead of Mario for Donkey Kong? They wanted... Oh my God. Is it like... I was going to say something as mad as like Mickey Mouse. Seems a bit far-fetched. I'm going to have to spend a life and defend my points, I'm afraid.
All right. Yeah, it's because it's risky. It's definitely
It
risky.
is a Japanese character, isn't it?
The correct answer is Popeye. Nintendo made an arcade game that was Popeye. They wanted to use Popeye for Donkey Kong, and they couldn't get the license, so they had to invent Donkey Kong and Mario. Or Jumpman, as he was called.
It was going to be Bluto and...
Yes. They were basically doing the same story, essentially,
Bluto,
but
Olive,
replacing all the
Popeye,
characters.
There you go.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right. Yeah. I should have got that. Never mind. I think that's the one Nintendo one I've got wrong. But anyway, right. Let's go 300 to PC or not to PC.
Okay. Overwatch often gets compared to this cartoony Valve-made shooter. Valve used to make video games. They were once a games company.
See, it's not that I'm stuck in my mind of what's defined as a shooter because I've got...
I mean... If Overwatch is a shooter, then, you know... Because Overwatch has a lot of characters that do a lot of different things, you know? They don't all shoot. And that's the same with this game that it gets compared to.
So you shoot a thing, but it doesn't do the typical thing a shooting game does?
No, because it's a multiplayer game. It's an online multiplayer game.
I'm going to have to spend a life.
With your last life. Your last life, Val. You have no lives remaining. The correct answer is, what is Team Fortress 2?
Yeah. Yeah, that was kicking around in my head somewhere.
Yeah, so there are 6 questions left. You have no lives. So if you get these wrong, you're going to be going deep in the negative points.
Shall I bank or shall I gamble? I'm going to gamble on the Xbox 300, and if I get it wrong, I'll probably take my money.
All right. This Xbox executive was famously derided for the following quote: "We have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
God, this is another situation of names being on the wrong part of my brain. It's like, it's the guy who... I know this guy's name. He has like a bowl chop.
I don't think he has a bowl chop. I don't know.
Because Phil Spencer's obviously the name I know, but he's the really popular guy who'd never say something like this, and he's really great. This is this is the guy before him who was really awful and said stuff like this quote.
Yeah, exactly.
And the guy I'm thinking of is called, it's like Cortana, it's just on the tip of my tongue.
As soon as I go to click it, it's going to come into your brain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really bad. This is really bad. This is really, really, really bad. The name...
You going to give any response, or should we just lose the point?
Hover the mouse around that correct response for a while. That makes it come to my brain for some reason. I can't do it.
Okay. The correct answer, Don Matrick. It's a very slimy executive name, isn't it, Don Matrick? It kind of fits very well.
Don Matrick. There you go. I knew that name. So you just wasn't coming. Okay, well, I think I'll take my points.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but sure, I guess that's how we'll work.
Well, I can take my points. Let's still do the remaining questions.
Yeah, sure. We can go through.
Shoot into the wind, but knowing that I can't ever get more than 1,300. How about that?
Exactly. All right.
1,300 is my score. Let's go.
So we're going to move on to the Xbox for 400. This was the code name of the Xbox One.
Oh, see, Scorpio's 1X, I want to say. Maybe it is. Yeah, okay. So... yeah, not got it. Not coming.
All right. The answer is, what is Durango?
Never going to get that.
Okay.
Forgot that. That was not in my head at all.
Okay, let's go for the PC 400 question. In StarCraft, you can play as the Terran, the Protoss, and this third and final race. This is a question you're not going to get, I know.
Humans?
No, the Terran are basically the humans.
Okay.
Earth, Terra. The correct answer is, what is the Zerg? Zerg are the third race in StarCraft. Zerg. Don't ask me why I know this shit. I've never played StarCraft in my life, and yet I know the 3 races of StarCraft. I don't know why. That's my brain.
There you go.
Play that station for 500.
Let's do it.
After making Little Big Planet 1 and 2, Media Molecule moved on to other projects. This developer took up the mantle and developed Little Big Planet 3.
So this developer came in to do Little Big Planet 3?
Yes, it was a different developer, not Media Molecule.
Right. No, I can't get this.
Correct answer is, what is Sumo Digital? Who also made the Sonic racing games and a bunch of other stuff. They made Snake Pass. What's in the Xbox for 500? This action-adventure game developed by Rare was a launch title for the Xbox 360. You're not going to get this one. It is Cameo, Elements of Power.
Okay.
It's an Xbox 360 launch game made by Rare. Yep.
All right. Okay.
And then finally... 500, late to third party. This Atlas-published puzzle game was the only project developed and released by the Persona team during the PS3 generation. Again, I was trying to think of the most non-bally questions possible. Talking about an Atlas puzzle game seemed like the way to go.
Go for it. Not going to get it.
It is Catherine. Catherine is the answer.
How could I have forgotten?
How could you have forgotten Catherine? Everyone loved it. So there you go. That was fun. I don't have a final Jeopardy question. I think that's the thing you technically are supposed to do. But anyway, we'll maybe mess with this format next time and make it somewhat.
I might try and
quite
test
a long time.
MBZ.
That would be fun. I would really enjoy that. That'd be
we could probably try and keep the same categories and mix it up a bit.
Sure. Although I like coming up with names for stupid names for the categories, that was fun.
Right.
So, there you go. Bally, you did pretty well. You did admirably, I'd say.
I didn't. It wasn't horrible. There were a couple in there, Don Matrick and Cortana, that will be floating around in my head when I'm trying to sleep tonight. But
yeah, exactly.
You can't win them all.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Next time, the thing is hard about this is like all the questions have to be things or names of stuff. So that's the tough thing about Jeopardy for you in particular, because it's just not your area where you excel in at all. But hey. Well, that's going to close out the show for us, people. Thank you very much for sitting with us and listening, and hopefully enjoyed that. Let us know how you did in the Nontendo quiz over on our Discord, on Twitter, all those places that you can find us. We have a few things to plug before we get out of here, though. Of course, our Patreon supporters we have to thank, all of our people who back us, and in particular, our ambassadors. So, Bali, who are they?
Yes, thank you to our two TNL Elite supporters. They are, of course, Atari, Alex, and my girlfriend Caroline. So thank you very much for your $10 tier support. It is much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks to everyone else who backs us on Patreon as well. It's very useful and helpful. And if you back us at the $2 tier, you can get access to our recent Patreon podcast, which came out last week, which is about our favorite boss battles in video games. That was a fun one to record. Lots of
so TNL ranks for all the $2 tier. We'd appreciate the support.
Absolutely. And then also we need to plug once more our Backlog Club. Final Fantasy VI is finally happening next time on the show. You have 2 weeks to finish Final Fantasy VI / send us emails or thoughts or opinions on Final Fantasy VI, and you can send those. /
if you've not started yet, then you're probably going to miss the deadline.
Well, maybe. Hey, you can always listen to it down the line. Yes, if you want to send us stuff about Final Fantasy VI, now is the time to do that. And where can people send that, Bally?
Please send your emails to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. And you can also post about Final Fantasy VI on our Discord server. Go on to our Twitter account at TNL Podcast, hit the link, jump in the Discord server, and we've got a chat going exclusively for Final Fantasy VI and our Backlog Club.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to talking about that next time. Before then, though, you can find us in various places. I'm on Twitter at LordNBZ. Where can people find you, Bally?
Please find me on Twitter. I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91. Your support and following would be appreciated.
Of course, and of course you can find the podcast Twitter, as we already mentioned, at TNL Podcast. You can find our show in various places around the net. We're on podcatchers such as Pocket Casts and all the other stuff. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher. Anywhere really you download podcasts, we should be there, apart from Spotify, because Giant Bomb only just got their podcast on Spotify, so Lord help us forever getting on there. That's definitely probably going to be an impossibility. You can find us in most places and download us. We're on YouTube as well, youtube.com/ThisNintendoLife. Put up the show there. So, if you appreciate in that format, that is also for your perusal.
Complete with timestamps.
Yes, absolutely. Timestamps. Always forget to mention that. So if you like skipping around and not listening to certain parts, then that is there for you. Anything else before we go out here, Bally, to plug?
Not really. Just get on playing Final Fantasy. I've got quite a bit of that game still to play.
Yeah. I'm hopefully going to finish it this weekend, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And it's a very interesting game to discuss, so I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say. So join us next time for that. Until then, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time, another episode of This Nintendo Life. Goodbye, folks. The musical interludes used on today's show were levels 1-1 to 2-4 from Overcooked, copyright Ghost Town Games 2016, and Gregg from Night in the Woods, copyright Infinite Fall 2017.